Hey, what's going on, No Nation? CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. Have some breaking news for you guys. Some huge news out of the transfer portal, and I mean literally and figuratively speaking. Duce Robinson, the big time prospect USC transfer receiver, has committed to FSU. That's right, FSU lands the number 5 overall transfer portal player regardless of position, in Duce Robinson. 6'6", 230 pounds, like I said, literally huge, right? 6'6", 230 pounds, really great get from Mike Norvell and wide receiver coach Tim Ice Harris as they get the number 5 overall player within the transfer portal out of USC. Like I said, Duce is 6'6", 230 pounds. FSU ended up winning the battle over Arizona State and Louisville, who tried to make a late push for Duce. Duce, who was originally from Arizona, went to visit Arizona State and Coach Dillingham, former FSU offensive coordinator who's currently in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, FSU ended up winning out for the elite. When I say elite, I mean elite transfer portal wide receiver. 6'6", 230 pounds. FSU was pretty much selling the bigger receiver factor and kind of the success they've had with bigger receivers. You go to Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. If you remember those two at FSU, they had a lot of success within the system, ended up going on to the next level in NFL. So I really believe that Duce, with Mike Norvell and staff kind of selling that point, was a big pitch for Duce. And also new transfer quarterback Thomas Castellanos. Thomas has been recruiting Duce relentlessly since he entered the transfer portal and since he committed to FSU. Those two have formed a pretty good relationship. Thomas was also on campus with Duce for his official visit, just to kind of host him around, just to build that relationship a little bit more and to show him, hey, how serious he is about bringing him to FSU and playing with him at FSU and just building that chemistry and building that type of camaraderie together. He was very productive at USC before deciding to transfer. He had 39 catches, 747 yards, and 7 touchdowns during his first 2 years on campus at USC. This year specifically, he had 23 catches, 396 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So you're talking about proven production coming to receiver room and a big time player for FSU. And also, he's a legacy guy, too. If you guys remember, Duce Robinson is his father. Just to kind of give you some background on Duce Robinson, a lot of people remember the Ricks to PK Sam game winning touchdown against Florida, right? Well, if you guys remember that game correctly, I know a lot of you FSU fans do because we hold these type of games with big time plays dear to our heart. For example, 4th and 14 against Miami. That's one of the plays that's going to stand out forever in the lore for Jordan Travis as far as being the quarterback and even the receiver at that point in time. But just to go back to that Florida game, there was another 4th and 14 that we had to complete prior to having a chance to have that game winning throw to PK Sam. Chris Ricks ended up hitting Dominique Robinson on the 4th and 14 across the middle to extend the drive, extend the chains, and to give that last second Hail Mary shot to beat the Florida Gators at home. Music to my ears. So again, he's a legacy kid. Dad ended up playing at FSU, like I said, and Duce himself was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, very elite. He was a 5-star tight end at the time, ended up playing receiver at USC, but a very elite prospect coming out of high school. His dad also, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, as they say. His dad also was a big-time 5-star prospect as well, coming out of high school before he elected to commit and have his playing days over with Bobby Bowden in FSU. So what we're getting in Duce Robinson is a big-time athlete that moves very well for his 6'6", 230-pound frame, can run, can make tough catches in traffic, can run after the catch. He does pretty much everything you want from a wide receiver within that frame, but he moves more so like a smaller receiver as well, too. It's kind of scary when you look at this film. But I think Duce is going to be a matchup nightmare for FSU. He's going to long wingspan, long catch radius, so to speak. So it's going to be a match made in heaven for Thomas Castellano as he zeroed in on Duce to try to bring him in to FSU to turn this program around after a 2-win season for the 2024 season. So again, big time gift for FSU. The selling point, like I said, is just using those bigger receivers we've seen in the past. In this past year for 2024, if you remember correctly, we didn't really have any receivers that kind of fit the bill of a Duce Robinson. From not even necessarily Duce Robinson, just the Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. We had a big drop off from a size standpoint from 2022, 23 to 2024. And Mike Norvell and staff is trying to address that and get some bigger bodies within the room. So you add a 6'6", 230 Duce Robinson And you also have Jordan Scott, the 6'7" JUCO wide receiver, and Tariq Mallory, the 6'5" prep high school receiver that we end up flipping on signing day from West Virginia. You have a lot of trees within the room to go along with the Hakeem Williams and Elijah Moore to combat with the smaller receivers we have on the roster as well. So you have a BJ Gibson, a Camden Fryer, and LaWayne McCoy. So you factor that in with the, like I said, the bigger guys, within the smaller guys, the in and out of your breaks type of guys. You have a well-rounded receiver room that should be a lot better than it was in 2023 because I'm sorry, 2024 rather, because this past season in 2024, I mean, let's be honest, we had one of the worst receiver corps within the ACC, and it really wasn't even close. Now, as far as FSU, I do think they will address more needs within the transfer portal. I don't feel like Duce will be the only receiver they try to grab out of the transfer portal. We may see one or two more additions out of the transfer portal as far as the wide receiver position, and you will see a whole open competition going into spring practice as far as reps and things like that. You have a new offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn, a new receiver coach in Tim Harris. Everything's on the table. It's time to prove your worth. So spring practice is going to be really interesting as far as the competition we have because, like I said, you bring in a Duce Robinson, a Jordan Scott, Tariq Mallory, and a few other receivers that we signed within the 2025 recruiting class. Jaden Boggs, for example, who, in my opinion, is the best receiver in Florida, won Mr. Florida this past and the last year. Probably was going to end up winning it again, back-to-back Mr. Florida awards, which is unheard of. Had 2,000 yards receiving for a senior year, and he also broke the receiving record in the game, the state of Florida receiving record in the game in the state semifinals prior to going on to win the third straight championship for Cocoa High School. So it's a lot of young, talented receivers that's coming in, along with some veteran transfer guys in JUCO. So we're going to have a big, healthy competition as far as who's going to play and be the guy for the 2025 season. So it should be very interesting. But Duce himself brings a lot to the table. Big time player. Like I say, he's the number 5 overall player in the transfer portal currently via 247 Sports. Was a 5-star coming out of high school, and he's made an impact for the USC Trojans pretty much day one since he's been on campus. 39 catches, 747 yards, 7 touchdowns. So you bring in a lot of productivity within Duce, and I'm pretty sure his dad is really happy to have, the legacy continue at Florida State University. Coming out of high school, FSU really didn't have a shot in hell within its recruitment, but it's funny how the transfer portal works and things like that, and to see it coming full circles to land a big-time playmaker in Duce Robinson. So Noles Nation, you should be excited for this get. Really big-time playmaker, a lot of length, a lot of size, can do a lot of different things. Playmaker with the ball in his hands, can go up top and shield receivers, want to make those tough contested catches, and just create a big target for a quarterback in Thomas Castellano, who, like I said, who was one of the forefront guys in recruiting Duce to Tallahassee. Those guys have formed a great relationship thus far. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, tap in with DoakTalk. We're going to be having more news coming from the transfer portal pretty soon. FSU is just heating up, and we're going to get a lot more commitments coming soon. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, join the DoakTalk community. Go Noles. Big time get for Mike Norvell and staff. I'm very excited for this one.